Thank you, recording lady. All right. So yes, welcome again. The Microsolidarity Vibes program. So yeah, myself and Abby are hosting this session today, but we also have in the room Sarah. Sarah, you want to say? Oh, we have two Sarahs. We have Sarah from the US. We also have Sarah in Berlin. But Sarah in the US will be also hosting some of these sessions, and also Jonas, who unfortunately couldn't make it today because he's got a sinus infection. Oh, not we have two Jonases as well. Jonas in the Netherlands and Jonas in Vienna. Austria, Vienna. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I've been hosting this course for a few times, and it's really nice to have Abby jumping on board to host it with me for the first time this time. And that's part of something that's exciting me about Microsolidarity, which is where we help each other a lot to step into leadership and hosting and hospitality. So yeah, we're been supporting Abby into that role as well. And I'm really happy to have you here, Abby.
Yeah, excited and nervous.
Cool. Let me say about the course. So did you all receive the email where it says like, here's a link to the videos and the Discord channel? Yeah, cool. I'm seeing lots of thumbs. That's great. Okay. Thanks, Sarah, for sending that out the other day. So there you'll see the links to the videos. If you haven't watched them, don't worry, but it is definitely very helpful if you watch them, because the videos are really sharing more like the theory and principles. And this is really the practice program. So where the things we do in this course are not exactly linked up to what happens in the videos, but the videos will give you more of a context about why we're doing this, and will also maybe attune your lens to what are we actually noticing as we're doing these practices. Yeah, in short, noticing how are we together is kind of the main goal. Yeah, so follow those videos in your own time, and the Discord channel is there for you to ask questions. We'll answer any questions there as soon as we see them. And yes, like there's a practice program thread for our group, and also people from previous practice programs have also posted their questions there, so you might also find your answer or other similar questions there as well. Okay, so today is really about putting you into a quick series of 4 different breakout groups, and the idea is to try and meet as many people as possible in the group. So it's going to be at quick contact moments, and it's really about noticing what's it like to meet someone. The other day, I think Rich said to me, like, I don't know, he said, I don't know if it's so much about like that a click happens between people based on who they are. That's important, but it's also important how they meet. So we're looking at like, how are we meeting today? How do we show up as a listener? We're going to practice active listening, and we're going to practice skills like that and reflecting back to each other what we heard, and just showing up with a quality of presence where I like to frame it as listening to support the other person to go deeper rather than listening necessarily to like respond straight away. So maybe you want to try that out. Before we get into it, there are a few gestures that I think are like non-verbal gestures that help us to form a bit of coherence with one another and give a sense that we're here together. One is twinkle fingers. We like to use this. Maybe some of you know it. In our group, it often means, hey, I agree with you, or I like what you said, or like me too. Some kind of like, yeah, resonance fingers. There's a wrap up one, which is this. So as we're just here for 1.5 hours, and we have like quite a lot of moments to invite voices. If you go on for a long time and we're thinking, okay, we think we got the essence of what you're saying, let's make sure there's time for others. I might go like this, just to invite you to slowly come to an end. It doesn't mean shut up straight away. This means maybe slowly come to the end of your point. Thank you for sharing. And the final one is I statements. I don't usually have to say this because it seems to catch on quite well, but it's more of an invitation or a suggestion that I'm bringing into the group, which is when I speak about myself, I speak more from my own experience. It's less likely that someone else will feel excluded if it's not matching their their experience as well, compared to if I said, oh yeah, everyone finds it much easier to relate offline than online. Some people might not have that experience. So I would keep it to like, I find it much easier to relate offline than online. The principle there is like really wanting to welcome a broad range of different experiences in the room. Does that make sense? Yeah, and works for everybody. Cool. Yeah, nice. It's in finger fingers already. Great. Super. Okay. Then Abby, how are you doing with setting up the breakout rooms? Have we got a 15-minute timer so you can reach?
Yeah, they're ready.
Perfect. Cool. Then I'll just introduce the first practice, first prompt really, which is pretty simple. A common question: how are you? How are you feeling today? Be in groups of 3, so you have 5 minutes each. First sharing how are you feeling, and just to get in touch with the purpose and our intention. Why did you join this Microsolidarity Vibes practice program, and what do you hope to learn from the program? And we'll send you a message when it's time to switch. There'll be you don't need to move yourself into a breakout room. We'll automatically zoom you away into that digital sphere, and then we'll zoom you back in again. You'll have a 30-second warning at the end, and we'll come back and see how that was. Any questions? No? Cool. Abby's just popped the questions in, the prompts into the chat, so you'll see them there. And okay, off you go. Whenever you're ready, Abby, you can open the rooms.
Okay. Everyone different speeds in real life as well, you know.
That's true. That's true. Nice. Welcome back, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that everyone? Are we all back? Okay. I hope you enjoyed that breakout room. I know when I first did it, I was just like, new people. And it's really nice to finally like get to talk to a person about Microsolidarity instead of like staring at a screen on my own in my own room. Yeah. So we're going to be going out into another breakout room. But just before that, I'm going to introduce a tiny little bit of theory. So in this breakout room, we're going to be practicing noticing the different layers of communication and kind of how it feels and what happens. And this model is kind of borrowed from the authentic relating and circling communities, in case you're interested in exploring this model further. So in the model that we'll be using is that there are kind of 3 layers of communication. There's the informational layer on top, and this one's about like facts and data. So for example, I live in Leeds. My room is pink. Yeah. So that's like the most kind of superficial layer. And then just below that, we've got the personal layer, which is about feelings and values. So for example, I'm feeling a bit of tension in my shoulders, or connection is a really important thing to me. And then underneath the personal, we've got the interpersonal layer, which is a really interesting layer. And it's about the relationship between you and the other person. So this might be something like, I'm noticing we have a shared interest in Microsolidarity, or it might be, when I'm with you, I feel really warm in my heart. And you can see like each layer is just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's really, we're going to be using this breakout room to kind of explore like what's it like to kind of attune to the vibe of the conversation by looking at depth. And please feel free to not go too deep too fast. I think that's really important to make sure you're checking in with yourself and seeing how things are feeling. You can always go back to other layers of communication after diving in further or diving back up again. And yeah, so the breakout room prompt is basically, please introduce yourself without using your job. And then the kind of meta prompt is, what's happening when you share at these different levels, the informational level, the personal level, the interpersonal level? Yeah, that's it. Jocelyn, would you like to add anything? And does anyone have any questions?
Wouldn't add anything, that's super clear. Yeah. No questions?
Okay. If we don't have any questions, are you ready, Jocelyn, with the breakout rooms?
Yeah, I tried to
Wait, I have a question.
Oh,
Oh,
sure.
great.
We're supposed to answer the question, but then is there a time where we're meant to reflect together on these layers?
Reflect together, like after the sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we won't be doing a share, like sort of meta reflection on how that was directly after this. We're kind of doing a bit like breakout, and then we'll have a share at the end where we can all reflect on what came up in the different practices. So there will be an
we're
option.
thinking about these layers as we're sharing about ourselves.
Yeah. So you might want to practice like, oh, when I'm sharing, what is it like to just share information? What happens when I share something a bit more personal or interpersonal? And what happens when the other person is also sharing on those different layers? Yeah. Does it change the quality of connection or how close you feel to someone? Yeah.
Wait.
So
We only think about it, or do we also talk about it?
We're just at the moment thinking about it. Yeah. We can talk about it later when we come to reflect on how the practices did something to us. Yeah.
So just to clarify, what we're doing, we're essentially answering similar questions to the previous breakout session, just with these 3 layers on mind. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is this?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, although the question is specifically introduce yourself without mentioning your job. So yeah, you might want to share something other than how you're feeling. Yeah. Anything at all. Yeah. Cool. Thanks for asking your clarifying questions. That's great. I'm trusting that whenever someone asks something, it also supports someone else. All right. So we will put you into these groups again. I've tried to mix you up so you meet different people. That's the bit of a roulette here this time. And we'll have, what was it, Abby, 10 minutes, I think? Yeah, put that on the clock. And then we'll come back. So we'll put a broadcasted sort of 3 minute, I'll give you a minute to settle in and decide an order. And then 3 minutes, we'll send a little broadcast announcement of when those times are happening. Okay, see you in a bit.
Slow walking back into the main room this time. Okay, I think that's all of us. Right, welcome back. I hope that was interesting for you, but we'll hear about it later. We're going to move into the 3rd breakout practice now. We're not debriefing right now because the whole idea is we're going to do all these rapid breakout rooms and then debrief all together at the end. So the next practice is called Parrot and Paraphrase. And the whole idea is kind of person A tells a brief story, and this time the prompt's going to be, one time I felt I really belonged in a group. And then person B is going to listen and reflect back to the story. Firstly, as a parrot, like kind of reflect back direct, like just literally repeat back words to check that they heard correctly. And then as a paraphrase, which is when you restate the story in your own words to check that you understand what was important to the other person. And then person A can clarify or add more until they feel understood, and so on and so on and so on. And then you switch person A and person B. It sounds a bit more complicated than it actually is, and we'll put the I'll put the prompt into the chat so you can see it. There we go. So a common question we get is kind of, when do I switch from the parrot to the paraphrase? And this is kind of for you to decide. So you might just parrot once and then move straight into paraphrasing, or you might parrot quite a few more times and then move into paraphrasing, then it's just something that, you know, you gotta feel out and see what works. There's no right or wrong way. We've all got different familiarities with these different practices and processes. If in doubt, just kind of focus on creating connection and being present, because that's more important than technique at the end of the day. This is just like another tool or another avenue for playing around that we're inviting you to try out. So yeah, if you're ever lost, just look at the chat for a reminder of what we're doing. The breakout room would be for 10 minutes, so it would be 5 minutes per person. And yeah, did I miss anything, Jocelyn? Are the breakout rooms ready?
They're ready. Sounds good. I've just given people 1 minute to arrive and say hi, and then we'll go into 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah. Unless there are any
do we have
questions.
any?
Yeah.
I have some, honestly, it's not super clear to me what it means to be a parrot, because check, I heard you. I mean, like, but as I do that, I am already kind of using my own words to make sure I understood. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Am I very dense right now? I just like don't understand how, like when if I start, I feel like I'm already doing the other thing. I'm already paraphrasing. You know what I mean? Like, how do I parrot? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe it's clear to everyone.
Do you want to answer that, Abby?
My understanding of parroting, I mean, it's all on a spectrum, and it's kind of, there's a bit of paraphrasing in parroting, there's a bit of parroting and paraphrasing, but parroting is more focused. I guess you end up using their words a lot more than your own, but you're probably still going to use a few of your own words anyway, because that's just part of communication. But the emphasis is kind of really using their words and being more of a direct mirror, whereas the emphasis in paraphrasing is really like using your own words and your own kind of concepts and frameworks and so on. Anyway, that's how I understand it. But Jocelyn, shall I say anything?
Yeah, pretty much like that. Yeah, it's almost unnatural sometimes to really parrot someone exactly, but sometimes it just even the last few words of like, oh, you said something like Valentina. Let me see if I remember it exactly. Like, oh, you're not sure if you're clear, and then to just say like sort of like, did I get you? Like that could be enough just to give this indication. Hey, I'm with you. Did you want to say more about that? Yeah. So maybe that's sometimes an effect that it can have when you just literally reflect exactly what someone said. So you can, does that give a helpful example? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right. This is really about like some of these exercises might seem like slightly strange ways of interacting with each other, but that's sort of the point where we're like, what happens when you actually speak like this or respond like that? And maybe something unexpected occurs or we learn something new. Cool. Great question. Let's dive in then and see you on the other side.
I think it's a pretty this one's a harder one to keep things succinct. It's like it's quite a chunky bit.
Yes. I can do it. Welcome back, Valentina and Ajay. I was just saying my challenge. I was just sharing with Abby one of my challenges of facilitation is not to go on too long because I get enthusiastic about things. I just want to share a lot. So I'm going to try in 2 minutes to share a brief bit of theory. But yeah, welcome back. As you've noticed, we've been doing practices in groups of 2 or 3 so far. So if you've been reading something about microsolidarity or you know something about scales, one of the things about that scale is that it's really easy to be a bit of an anthropologist of like what's happening in our relationship when we try out relating in this way or in that way. Much easier than if we're in a group of 10 or 50 people to know like how does my presence affect the dynamics. So that's why we're doing these like small group practices. Another aspect of scale is that there are sort of recurring patterns between one group size and another size. So the lessons that you learn about how to relate on a small scale can actually escalate out onto like understanding how the larger groups work. So for example, if you notice like, okay, trust is sort of built by me sharing a bit more on the personal layer, or maybe even more on the interpersonal layer. Maybe something changes. You might also notice how can you support a congregation or a larger group of people to create that trust in micro pockets by creating the environment for them to have those conversations where they can open up a bit more like that. If you're aiming for connection and belonging anyway. Going down a scale a bit, like what we also find useful to look at is the level of self. And actually you might think, a lot of people think, oh wait, self is the smallest scale of community, but actually we're recognizing that inside of us, we're also a collection of individual parts. We're kind of also like a group. Like I might feel very different one day to the next. This is where microsolidarity, we've sort of learnt a lot on internal family systems theory, and some of these theories talk about that a lot, that we are sort of a multitude of different personalities within us. Sometimes we even speak about that without knowing any of these modalities. You might say like, today, part of me feels so tired and just wants to go to bed, and part of me is really excited to continue this conversation, or to get my work done, or to go out and meet that friend we haven't seen in a while. So sometimes that's when we experience tension within ourselves. That's a fairly mundane and not too challenging internal tension. But when we have larger ones, like a big decision to be made, or where we are at a crossroads with what do we do with our lives, or when we find part of us is in conflict with the cultural sphere around us, that creates a lot more tension. The point I'm trying to get to is if we can relate to ourselves with compassion and understand what's going on inside of us, then we're much more easily going to be able to have compassion in the relationships around us, outside of us. So something we try and practice also on the most inner level of community is how can we build partnership between the different parts of ourselves? When I can embrace the part of me that gets excited and wants to share a lot and doesn't judge myself for doing that and running over time, I'm not going to judge maybe Abby, my co-facilitator, if she starts doing that. I'm not doing that yet, Abby, by the way. I feel very relaxed with you, which is really nice. So right now, we're not going to go into like, how do we create partnership within the parts in ourselves, but we're just going to be practicing very simply noticing, oh, what parts are actually alive in us, so we can start to build an awareness of that together. Might be something you're unfamiliar with, might be something you're more familiar with, but we have a selection of prompts and some sentence stems to help you get started. So maybe Abby, if you could put those in the chat box for me. We're going to be in pairs this time to support each other in this exploration. And the question is, again, what's going on for you right now? So that might sound similar to like, how are you feeling at the beginning? Maybe something's shifted. Right now, having done those practices, what's going on for you mentally, physically, or emotionally? And the invitation is to try expressing this by giving voice to some of your different parts. And there are some 3 sentence stems that I've offered here. One is maybe a part of me is feeling blah, 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 excited to be here. I notice one voice is saying, I wonder what's going on in other people's breakout rooms and how they're relating. Part of me wants to debrief with everybody at the end and hear what's happening. You can bring whatever's true for you. And remember, the person listening can contribute with their curiosity and paraphrase or parrot as they like. You don't have to just remain silent. There's 5 minutes each, and then we'll have time to switch, and the other person, switch halfway through. I think that's all I want to share about that. I just want to check if there are any questions before we dive in. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. See what comes up for you as you focus on this parts awareness. Okay, Abby, you ready for the breakouts? Lovely. Okay, let's give it a go. Welcome back again. Right, so 4 breakouts down the road. Now, finally, we get the opportunity to do some reflection. So there's a nice little metaphor that I really like. Basically, Natty and Rich designed this course, and we've tweaked it over time. But what I really like that Natty brought in is this concept of having a balcony moment. So there's this metaphor of, imagine you're like at a party, you're on the dance floor, and then you make your way up onto a balcony, and you can look down about how everyone else is dancing together. Like maybe you can see there's like pockets of dancing over here. Maybe those people are more like talking at the bar, or maybe that bit's really bumping and that bit's just really empty. Like if you're looking down at the balcony of our session today, and we step off the dance floor and we look down on the dancers and notice what we've seen about our interactions today, what are we noticing? And I'm going to give you a chance to first do a bit of journaling, and there are some prompts again to support your reflections from the balcony. So thanks, Abby. Just put those in the chat. So when you look down on the interactions of our session today, how did it feel today to be in the different groups? What did you notice about the different relational practices? And what did you notice about yourself? Did anything shift or change or arise that you can observe? So this is like what we call a meta reflection, where we're not in it, we're stepping out and looking back on what we observed. So yeah, we'll play a little bit of music. If you don't enjoy it, you can just mute yourself, mute the volume. And I'll try and do some kind of extortionate sort of movement that you know that we're back again. It'll be about 3.5 minutes, and then we'll have a bit of group sharing. Any questions before we set you off in journaling mode? No? Okay, great, super. Then Abby, if you want to put that on, lovely.
Mhm.
slowly start to come to an end of what you're writing. Nice. Oh, that was satisfying. Timing. Okay. Nice. So having reflected a bit within yourself on your experience today, I'd love to invite anyone who likes to either unmute yourself and feel free to share a reflection. Or if you prefer, you can also type something into the chat. Yeah, we've got 7 minutes left before the end of the session. So maybe we should take 5 minutes just to hear a few voices. What have we noticed?
I can share. I noticed that the cues and the outline, or kind of like the framing of every container I was in, really helped the focus, and then the presence. And I guess kind of it felt like I was moving in physical groups almost, because it was so contained. And that made me feel more and more and more relaxed in the whole group. Yeah, it was nice.
Thanks, Jonas. So something about the structure and containment and clarity supported that sense of easy connection. Nice. Yeah. Maybe if remember we have these twinkle fingers, if anyone wants to give some feedback or like, yeah, I resonated with that too. The way we can get a sense of, majority or more people agreeing. Also totally welcome. Maybe I know some people are like, oh, I find structure really hard. Why was it only 5 minutes? Anyone welcome to share. You're also welcome to share completely different views. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share. That the last group was particularly helpful. I don't always recognize how much I'm masking. I have chronic illness from COVID, and so there's a lot of natural like matching of like tone and pacing of speech, and that's actually pretty exhausting for me long term. Which is a lot of why I'm here, for like just like mapping out and discovering different ways of connecting and attunement and co-regulation and stuff like that. So it's a little tender, but it was nice to really settle into that.
Thanks so much, Will.
I can share something. I really loved the structures of the small groups. It gave me a sense of safety, and the thing that we were changing people, for me it was like refreshing. Like a part of me that it's a bit judgmental, it was like, okay, a fresh start. I don't know these people, so I appreciate it. And overall, it was I noticed about myself that I was getting a little bit more tired every group, but also less judgmental and more curious. But yeah, it was a challenge, and I'm happy how I made it. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ashi. That's nice to hear. Yeah, it stands out to me what you said about the small groups supported a sense of safety for you, even though it was like regularly changing. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
Something I found a little challenging about the kind of very structured way of the way we did things was that I'm quite used to, I guess, connecting via a conversation, and this like it really wasn't conversations. It was more like a series of like mini monologues, and I found myself being like, oh, but I want to connect better by like asking a question, or like, let's go into this or there. And at times it felt like just me talking to like just heads on the screen. And I don't like feeling this way because I know that you are not just heads on the screen. But yeah, I don't know how this could have been done otherwise, given the time constraints and also us wanting to speak to very many different people. So, but I noticed I found that quite challenging, actually.
Thanks so much for sharing, Kuba. And I saw also a few other resonances of others who found it challenging, the rapid speed and the formatedness. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, so for you, it's more like you would have liked more time for emergent, or like the conversation to be more emergent is a little bit what I hear, to have to be able to ask questions and have more conversation. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing with you. The next session is Troika, and then we have a case clinic. So there's a lot of opportunities to have a bit more of a lengthy presence with each other. So yeah, appreciate you jumping into the challenge of a rapid fire, like micro connections today. And it's just really interesting to see what supports some people to arrive and feel connected, and what's for others a little jarring. So there's no right or wrong science about this. Like, that's what I quite enjoy about micro solidarity, right? It's actually about, wait, what actually works for you? What works for you to embrace a pluralistic approach to what creates belonging? Yeah. Thank you all for sharing. We come to the half hour mark. I don't know, it's probably a different half hour for, there's so many of you from different places, actually. It's really quite a wide variety of locations you're coming in from. Very exciting to see. So yeah, we're going to wrap up here, but thanks so much for your reflections and your presence and for showing up. Next session will be on Thursday at the same time in the same Zoom room, and will be hosted by, is it Abby and Sarah again? Is that right? Sarah, is it the two of you? And Abby? Yeah. Nice. Cool. And we'll go into more of some more peer support practices, or a peer support practice. Maybe Abby, could you post in the chat again the Discord link in case anyone has questions, because we don't have time for that during the call so much, but the Discord channel is a great place to ask those questions and we'll get back to you. And we also put there a link to the videos, the course content. So if you haven't watched those yet, maybe see if you can at least watch the first two and get a bit of a background on the concept of scales and yeah, theory of microsolidarity. It's been great to be with you. And yeah, do we have a dedicated Discord channel for this group here? No, there's not one specifically for this group, but there's just one for a practice program. Yeah, cool. All right. I'm actually happy to stay on for another 5-10 minutes if anyone wants to chill out for the after party. That's always fun, I find. But if you got to go, we just wish you a wonderful rest of the evening or day wherever you are, and see you again on Thursday. Yeah. Bye for now.
Thanks so much.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Eva.
Yeah, feel free to
Bye-bye.
unmute yourselves.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Hey.
I did want to ask you, because unfortunately Thursday, I have something I have to do at 7. Does it make sense? Does it make sense to come and then leave at 7?
It's a bit tricky next time because we do Troika. Means that, yeah, and it requires groups of 3. What you could do, Valentina,